Welcome everyone to the Tectonic Takes podcast. We're doing things a little differently. Normally, for a post-game podcast such as this one, we like to take a little bit of time to digest the game, and I like to also go detailed and have a game plan of how we're going to map up the podcast. But since we have one of our Tectonic Takes members co-host now, since he's making his podcast debut at the game, we
How's it
thought
going?
we'll go right out of the gate and give our instant reactions. And I'm talking about Chris from Mercado. He's one of our newer members. He's doing his first ever podcast with us. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on, Ivan. It's been a pleasure. Today's game was a great game, live from PayPal Park, and it was hard fought. It was a hard fought game here, and being here in the stands, it was electric.
Yeah, I definitely think it was fitting. We played against the Loons, Minnesota United, and sometimes this game felt like Looney Tunes, not necessarily in the cartoon sense, but in the chaos sense. So
Yeah,
it's been interesting to watch from the TV in my perspective, and I'm sure it was for you, as you just said, in the stadium itself. This is the first home game that I haven't been able to go to. So hopefully next time we'll both be able to be at the same game.
yeah, definitely. That'd be fun.
Yeah, so overall, it's all about who wants it more. And the question
Yeah,
is both, and that was the question. The answer was both these teams wanted it badly. Minnesota United's situation isn't as dire. The next three opponents the Quakes will face, including tonight's opponents, Minnesota United, are all third through fifth in the Western Conference. So they're a bit more secure in their playoff position than the group of teams that includes the San Jose Earthquakes. I look at Minnesota United. I know there's been a lot of teams that have had success with San Jose Earthquakes in the last several seasons, but Minnesota United have been arguably the most successful. They lost their first four games since coming to Major League Soccer against San Jose, but since then, Minnesota United has had San Jose Earthquakes number, and I viewed this relationship as I viewed U.S. men's national team versus Ghana, where they lost to Ghana in 2006 and 2010. They finally beat Ghana in 2014, and that felt like, okay, that was finally a good step forward for that program. And I think this is another step that the Quakes were unfortunately unable to take tonight. But if they can continue to compete against teams like Minnesota United and hopefully beat Minnesota United in some point in the near
yeah,
future, that'll be a sign of good things to come.
yeah. The point tonight was hard fought. The red card with Nathan tonight would tell that the team took a little bit of a toll, and the point is a point, and we continue our
Yep.
unbeaten streak,
Yeah, 9
and that's
games
the most important
unbeaten.
part. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially at home, we can't be losing, and to take the point home is better than to go home with nothing.
Right. And to our podcast listeners, apologies if we encounter some audio issues. We haven't podcasted too many times from the stadium, so this is a little bit uncharted territory.
A little bit of a work in progress. We're working with what we can.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Minnesota United's lineup. They have a lot of interesting players. Tyler Miller, goalkeeper. Their back line consisted of Madagascar international Romain Métanire. He was part of the team that in their first ever African Cup of Nations, they made to the quarterfinals. Then you have Brett Coleman and Bakaya Dibasi from Mali in a center defense. Dibasi was the player who scored the own goal for Minnesota. Then you have DJ Taylor filling in at left back for Chase Gasper. The midfield consisted of Jan Gregus, the Slovakian designated player, alongside Will Trapp. Ethan Finley, Emmanuel Reynoso, and Hassani Dotson were their wingers and attacking midfielder. And Adrian Huno was their striker up top. And we saw Justin McMaster and Juan Agudelo come off the bench for them. And they're coming off a 1-0 loss to LA Galaxy. So it'll be interesting to see what the Quakes not only take from this game, but the game Minnesota played previously as they prepare to face LA Galaxy up next. Was there any surprises for you in the lineup?
I would say definitely Trophy's not being here tonight for the San Jose Earthquakes. I would say it was a little bit of a surprise, definitely.
He was
tonight.
out due to a suspension, yellow card accumulation.
Yeah, yellow card accumulation. Him not being here tonight.
I felt like he was.
Yeah. Having Nathan at the back allows us to play that back three really aggressively, the way Almeida wants us to, and him not being there definitely like tells like on the team. His presence there is very important. And Trophy's playing in the position that he does. You know, the great goal that he scored on the cutback from the assist from Espinosa. I felt like he was a little bit missing here tonight. You know, Cowell had a couple of good opportunities, but yeah, you know, I felt like Trophies was definitely missing here tonight.
Yeah, so the Quakes lineup, of course, Marcinkowski. This time we had a back four for the first time in a while. Abakasis, Nathan Beeson, and
Right.
Marcos Lopez. Holding midfielders were Remedy and Jidson. And then you had Espinoza and Salinas, the wingers, Jackson Ewell in that 10 role, and Jeremy Ebobisi as the striker. And from the bench, we saw Kid Cowell, Paul Marie, Carlos Fierro, and Chris Wondolowski. An important milestone for Chris Wondolowski. If you thought there was nothing else for him to achieve, he's now part of the 400 MLS appearance club.
Wow.
So congratulations to him.
Yeah, definitely congratulations to Chris Wondolowski. 400 appearances is no small feat. For him to do it here at PayPal Park, it was great to have him come on, and 400 and counting, you know, is the GOAT, Chris Wondolowski.
I think he'll probably add a dozen or so more before he hangs them up if this really is the end for him. And that's just an incredible number to think about. So regular MLS season is 34 games. I don't even think it was 34 games when Chris Wondolowski first entered the league, because we've had so many expansion teams come in over the years. So
since then, definitely
by the 2021 standards of MLS, it's like if you've played 13 seasons. So he's definitely, the math checks out if I remember Chris Wondolowski's history correctly. And he wasn't always expected to be a top level MLS striker, but he's worked hard and he's carved out this legacy for him. And hopefully, you know, if there's one thing that the Quakes can draw from him, even if Chris Wondolowski isn't scoring as much goals as he used to be, it's that grit and determination to fight for every point. And I think they showed that tonight. And
yeah,
I think
his
someone
leadership
who fought
on the
really
field
hard was Jackson Ewell. I think he redeemed himself after some poor performances for club and country, and they really needed him.
I would agree with that, definitely. And him, alongside him, Judson tonight was absolutely A1. Personally, I would give him the man of the match.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's working hard. The last couple of performances that he's had has been top notch, and you know, hopefully he could keep it up. Him and Jackson Ewell make a really good midfield. Him, Remedy. Personally, I think Jackson Ewell, Remedy, and Judson should continue to be the midfield.
Yeah, I think as long as there's a 4-2-3-1, that there's going to be room for all three of them. If you want to go three in the back, and this is the formation I thought they were going with initially, then you can try a 3-4-1-2 with Jackson as like a cam, and that would be similar to the formation that the Italian national team used to use back around like the 2014 World Cup. So it is possible, but it is a rare formation. And since you brought it up, my man of the match as well is Judson. And for once, Twitter agrees with me. According to our poll on the Tectonic Takes podcast, granted, it's only 30 votes, and there's still like 23 hours left in this poll because we always let it run for 24 hours. Judson currently has 50% of the vote, with everyone else, you know, fighting for second. So I think this is a very vintage Judson performance where he was just all over the place in a good way.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the Brazilian Conte here for San Jose Earthquakes. He's putting in a really good performance, and he needs to keep it up because we need players like him to keep on playing for the shirt and playing for the 3 points every time.
Yeah. So when the Quakes scored their opening goal, it was a 12th-minute goal. It was a bit fortunate because Christian Espinoza, he tried his luck. It took a deflection off Dibasi. It was rolled in own goal. I was thinking, okay, this is good, but we've seen this story before. Does this team have 78 more minutes of good football or soccer left in them? And I didn't expect to be proven so wrong so quickly and so emphatically with Nathan, who has been terrific for the San Jose Earthquakes.
Absolutely terrific.
He was due for that game, but he wasn't due for error this bad, and it wasn't even the thing that surprised me, and maybe it was just me thinking, oh, the Quakes are always getting screwed over at first. but I didn't realize how bad it was at first. I thought, maybe that was a little harsh. Maybe it should have just been
The tackle.
yellow. But then I saw the
Yeah.
replay, and I can't really argue with the red card as much as I wanted to.
The replay definitely brings out a good point. Personally, I'd say a yellow and a really stern talking to, but the ref, he sees it, he saw it, and probably made the right correction. It was studs up. It was a kind of a late tackle. He did really well to get the ball at first and to carry it into the midfield, but the tackle, it was a little late. It was a little bit dirty, and I mean the red definitely shows for the rest of the game. It affected the game on the outcome, 10 versus 11, but the Quakes, they didn't let it get to their heads. They kept working for the point.
Then this long MLS break coming up due to the All-Star game is going to be even longer for Nathan. He's going to watch the Quakes on Friday, either from the hotel in LA or from home in San Jose. And hopefully he realizes that in that midfield, when there's not an immediate threat, he doesn't have to go all out with those kinds of challenges. Like we've seen it work out for him in some dangerous situations in the box before.
Yeah.
It's met with the type of celebrations you'd see a defensive NFL player when they get an interception. And it's great to see. But
yeah, you gotta love his passion. You gotta love his passion on the field. But I would agree, there's a time and place. And like I said a little bit previously, it showed a bit on the reflection of the game, having 10 men.
Yep, and if you asked me who from Minnesota United was gonna score the first goal of this game, the safe money would have been Reynoso, and then maybe someone like Kuno, even though as a designated player he hasn't really been the best of designated player strikers so far during his time in MLS. But Will Trapp, this was his third career MLS goal, and it came, of course, against us.
I know, a bit unfortunate. I would say for Minnesota United, the right fullback, he was putting a little bit of a performance in. He had a couple of good body movements, having our players moving around. But yeah, for him to get his third goal tonight, it's a bit unfortunate, but they all got to score at some point. 1-1, we got to take home the point at home.
Yeah, I mentioned the right back earlier, Roman Metiner. He's from Madagascar. He's shown why he's an international caliber player. International players from Africa are a little bit rare in MLS, so it's always exciting to see. So we'll, and he is one of the better fullbacks in MLS, in my opinion. So definitely one to watch out for, and he had a good game as well. Him versus Shea Salinas was an interesting battle before Shea Salinas came off.
Definitely.
And something that I didn't notice, well, before I get into that, there was a chip goal scored by Minnesota, but saved by the offside flag.
Saved by the offside flag. Everyone here in the stadium got a little rattled by that, but it was a good call. The ref made the right decision. Offside is offside, and the chip was a little bit classy, but good thing we kept it 1-1.
Yeah, I think there would have been a good amount of people walking out of the stadium if they scored that chip goal. It's like, okay, we've seen enough. But thankfully they were able to hold on. Eventually there would be no other goals in that match, so that proved to be very important. After that chance, the Quakes started to plug the gaps a bit better as the first half drew to close. One of our Twitter followers at Quackarazzi noticed that Christian Espinoza hyperextended and possibly tore his right MCL. So that's going to be something to watch for his availability potentially against the Galaxy on Friday. And ultimately, the sentiment after the first half and eventually throughout the whole game was that the referee, Victor Rivas, did not call Minnesota on the same types of minor fouls as he had the Quakes, as I'm sure that the fans at PayPal Park agreed with you, right?
Yeah, the fans at PayPal Park definitely, it's a good atmosphere out here. Yeah. We would love to see the stadium get filled up. It would be absolutely electric. I mean, there's no bad seats here in PayPal Park,
no,
but
absolutely.
for the people that were here,
you get a good view almost anywhere.
Look, let's see, maybe my camera could show a little bit off of the stadium. It's a beautiful stadium. There's no other stadium like it with the view that we have of the airport here. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, for those listening to the audio only version of this podcast, Chris is seated, near the top, or at least recording this podcast with us from the top section of the side of the seats
Yeah,
facing
right by the
the
corner
long
flag.
bar and the big board.
Yeah. The great seats anywhere in the stadium, but personally, this is where I like to sit.
Yeah, it's a good place, and I'm glad you enjoyed the viewpoint from there. Quake surprisingly started off the second half with a spell possession. Salinas got into dangerous wide position, but Metineer snuffed it out. We saw Christian Espinoza cheaply give the ball away in dangerous position. He had potentially a couple options. It wasn't the easiest of situations, but instead of shooting or passing, he just kept it too long and he got picked off. Were you expecting it to be all
Yeah.
in the Quakes half for that second 45 minutes?
I expected the Quakes to go out there. Maybe, like you said, sometimes I feel like they take a little too long, but it's understandable. We have to see where the players are open. We have to be able to read the space. For the second half, I thought we did okay. I thought we did well to hold on to the point because, especially with 10 men, it's always difficult to play with that disadvantage.
I'd say the biggest chance Minnesota had in the second half was when they were crashing the box in numbers. They had a few opportunities, passes, shots. I think Reynoso lost his balance a little bit, but still managed to put in a dangerous position. JT Marcinkowski and the defense were doing some last-ditch defending, but there was a handball in the buildup, so that killed the opportunity. I was really nervous watching that. I'm sure you thought that it was a certain goal at that point.
Yeah, I did.
Yep. So, but thankfully, that was pretty much all the Minnesota attacking threat offered for the rest of the game. In the 80th minute, there was a big moment in the match. So, Cade Cowell was in between Brent Coleman and DJ Taylor. It looked like DJ Taylor did just enough to win the ball fairly. There was a bit of contact, but I didn't see enough in it to think that there should have been a penalty. Obviously, we would have loved there to be a penalty, but
Yeah. Kate Carroll did a little bit of a kick. It looked like a penalty from Iowa City, and I was definitely screaming. I was screaming for the pen, but right call from the ref.
Yeah, sorry for talking over you there, but I think that little kick that Cowell did on Taylor, I think that was just enough for the referee to think, okay, this is 50-50 at best.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, but a penalty would have been perfect for the 2-1 if we were able to sink it. But right call from the ref.
Yeah, we already mentioned Chris Wondolowski making the 400th game milestone, and how ultimately the Quakes they were outshot by a lot. I think Anthony Dangerfield and Chris Passarelli in the commentary while I was watching the game, they mentioned that Minnesota United outshot them 11-2. I didn't realize it was that drastic, but it's to be expected when you're down to 10 men. And then lastly,
yeah,
there's one final chance. I believe Carlos Fierro had the ball, and Wondolowski was unmarked making a run, although he was in a deeper position at the time while Cade Cowell was already in the 18-yard box.
In the box, yes.
He made the cross. Unfortunately, Minnesota was able to deal with it. Maybe if he passes it to Chris Wondolowski either takes a shot or makes another pass, and that could have been the late game winner. But
that could have been it.
Finishes 1-1. I was also watching the game with my dad, and he was really annoyed that they didn't pass the ball to Wondolowski there. But I think at that point, like, it was desperation time. They're just trying to get the ball into the danger area as soon as possible. It wasn't the optimal move, but you can understand the instincts at play there.
Yeah, you can. We would have loved to see Fierro pass it back. The cross could have been better, but Cowell being in the box, we've seen him before. He can't really use his head. We would have loved for Cowell to take a page out of Chris Wondolowski's book and learn how to take a header. But he's a great player with 4 goals, 4 assists this season. He's going to be very important going down the line.
All right, so with that result, that's another point in the pocket for the San Jose Earthquakes, and I think that's the most important thing. Like, you eventually do need to start winning some games, but you have at least a slim chance of moving up if you get a point. You have no chance of moving up, and you're likely moving down if you get 0.
Yeah, most definitely. The important thing is that we're 9 games unbeaten. Unbeaten is better than, like you said just now, a loss. Moving up a little bit is more important than not moving up at all or going down in the table. Those points are crucial for toward the end of the season.
All right, so due to where we are in the MLS schedule, there's still a lot of games coming tomorrow, so we're not going to do a league table update or a fantasy league update. Chris, are you in our fantasy league?
I have not joined the fantasy league,
next
but
season.
next season is 100% on my list to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, up next for the Quakes, beyond the Galaxy game, the next game after that will be at home September 4th to Colorado Rapids. Then we have another busy week from September 11th versus FC Dallas. Then 4 days after that, RSL. 3 days after that, Austin. So getting 3 points against LA Galaxy would be the best case scenario, but
yeah,
the job won't be done even then. Every game from here on out is going to be important. So we'll see how the Quakes can respond. What do you expect for this upcoming California Classico?
I'm expecting at least a good game, at least a hard fought game, like we kind of saw tonight by our 10 men on the field. I'm hoping, for Cal to probably get another goal. If he's going away for the All-Star game as well. Him being called up, it was a great achievement for him, especially. But I'm for the Clásico, I'm expecting at least a hard fought game. Salinas to keep doing his magic, keep running down the wing and keep putting in the shift that he always does. And he's Mr. Clásico. He has to he has to perform and if we could get the win, like you said, best case scenario, keep moving forward and beat the rivals. That's the objective. Beat LA.
All right, I agree. You don't need any more motivation to beat LA Galaxy, regardless if you're standing in the table. So
exactly,
that would be a great time for a rare win during this undefeated run, which is really weird to say, but it is.
A bunch of draws, but the wins we have to take away. We have to take away that we're undefeated in these last 9 games.
So what would your prediction for the Galaxy game be then?
I would want to say if we could get the win versus Galaxy.
Score?
Yeah, for the score of 1-0. I would love to see Jeremy Abobasi get the winner.
All right. I think, unfortunately, the trend of conceding goals will continue, but I think law of averages, something's got to go right. I think the Quakes can stun the Galaxy. They'll win 2-1. So next up, we have our fan questions. Right. And we'll start with very special, someone I know pretty well. This comes from Instagram. His Instagram handle is e.made.it. Better known to me as Eric Ornelas, my brother. But on that Instagram handle, he does a lot of great NBA and soccer artwork. So go check it out on Instagram. Anyway, his fan question is, what is the most important player for the Quakes right now? And to me, the most important player for the Quakes right now, I still think, even though this was an atrocious error by him that could have easily screwed over the Quakes, Nathan is still the most important player, because it's not a coincidence. Ever since they signed Nathan, that they've been near impossible to beat. They haven't been winning games as much as we would like, but he's giving them a chance to win games with both his usual defensive performances as well as some offensive contributions as well on set pieces. So I think, Christian Espinoza stepped up. Jackson Newell is one of the more talented players the Quakes have. Jitson is important for how the midfield is run. JT Marcinkowski stepped up. Chris Wondolowski is still the leader, but Nathan's importance is probably at the top of the list. But this team, you can point the finger at a lot of players that, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Definitely Nathan has been outstanding. You know, his energy and the way he plays on the field, it feeds off. It's like something kind of intangible, but something that you could feel, and that you could tell that in the team that his presence there is definitely like they're feeding off of it. And I would arguably say that maybe Judson is also up there. You know, the way he works on the field is kind of understated. You know, he presses the ball heavy, and he's there. He's everywhere. And him and Nathan are definitely up there for the most important players for the Quakes at the moment.
Right. And then one player that I surprisingly didn't mention was Cade Cowell. And I think during points of the season, I might have said Cade Cowell, but I think if I'm being honest with myself, that his strengths are being magnified as well as his weaknesses. So that kind of has been evening out his performances for me. He's still an immensely talented player, and he's still very young too. He's going to figure these things out. But as of now, I think if he can find another gear and he can work out some of those kinks, then he's going to be an important factor for how the Quakes finish the season.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, he's already on 4 goals, 4 assists, you know, with the games that we have played so far. I suspect that he's probably going to continue with that form. You know, he's probably going to get a couple more goals, couple more assists. The way that he runs off, like runs with the ball and counter presses off of the ball is very important for Matias Almeida's system.
Yeah, I think maybe 15 goal contributions for the season. If he can find a purple patch, could still be possible. But you know, if he can get to double digits, like that's still a great return for a young player. And
absolutely.
Next up from Quakes Woj at Trevor Wojcik. How the F was that not a penalty? And I get it. Like it would have been great if it went in our favor, but I think, you know, there wasn't enough in it for me. If I were a neutral party, if I were a referee, I'm not sure I would call that penalty. But you know, that's just how it goes. I know it's probably not the answer you were hoping for.
It does.
That's just the way
you know,
it is.
Sometimes you definitely, you know, sometimes you get the call, sometimes you don't. You know, the VAR call on Nathan, you know, earlier it was first call was a yellow, second call VAR. You know, I was in the stands here. I was hoping that they would go VAR because from where I was sitting, it looked like a potential penalty. I don't know how it looked through the TV, but yeah, you know, I would say probably the right call from the referee for that penalty.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be that person who's going to be switching my opinions on VAR depending on whether or not it helps the team I'm rooting for. I think that's how VAR is intended to work.
Yeah, I mean VAR. Since it's been introduced, you know, a lot of fans either they love it or they hate it, and I've been one of those fans to love it more when it kind of goes your way. But you know, it can't be like that. But the sport has to be fair. When the ref calls it the way it should be called, it's the way it should be. You know, the ref has the final say on the cause.
All right, next we got Nestor Valley at Valizi. He asks a couple quick fire questions. Why did Nathan Guy ruin the vibe like that? I feel it. And then the more serious question was, what do you guys think of Jibo so far? And I think that, you know, the striker's role is going to be tough to settle into mid-season. And I think, especially since we've had to change formation, that does change the way he plays. It changes the way that the players around him plays in order to provide Ebobisse the service that he needs. But I think other than that one bad miss he had in this game, I think that he's going to be putting in some goals soon. I think it's just a matter of time. What do you think?
I believe so too. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. You know, it probably takes a couple games to get used to the players and the run of play. Especially the game before this one. You know, there was a couple chances with Cade Cowell could have given him a nice sideway pass for him to be opening into space. But you know, it takes a little bit for the players to get used to each other and build up that team chemistry in order for the goals to be coming in. You know, Jeremy Ebobisse is a great striker from the highlights that I've seen. You know, coming from the Timbers. You know, great piece of business, I would say. It's just a matter of time for him to start scoring in the goals.
All right, and then the next question comes from at David J. Mays. He asks, is there a way to shake up the club? I believe he's speaking both in terms of the roster as well as the club dynamics or the way it's run, so that progress won't be fleeting. Uh, I'm just paraphrasing from the long message that he sent because we want to be cognizant of the time here. It's almost 10:30 Pacific Standard Time. Basically, it's other than signing or spending money on players, what can Quakes change to make that next step? Because right now it feels like their ceiling could be this middle of the pack status, which there are. They might win some games, but they might take a few steps back. And I don't think there's going to be an easy answer for this because
Yeah.
a lot of our players, they are giving it their all, but I think that we do need to see a bit more from some of them. I think, and once we do, like I think Kate Cowell, he's a good spell of form in MLS away from potentially getting signed by another club. Especially like in these last few years, we've seen a lot of young talent, young American talent in particular, get signed across various European leagues, Serie
Yeah,
A,
definitely.
Bundesliga, even Belgium. So that's
Yeah.
not an answer. I know I try to give the best answer I can for all these fan questions, but I think
You
this is
know,
a
for
question that like we would have to spend a little bit more time on, David, and I'll give it some more thought, and maybe I'll tell you
you know,
off the
if I could
podcast. Yeah.
yeah, sorry for interrupting a little bit there, but if I could probably try to answer that question as short as I could, maybe if we could work a little bit on the academy. I know we have
Mm-hmm.
Ochoa for goalkeeper
Yeah.
coming up, and maybe if we could continue working on the academy and grow from within, that could maybe be something special. Homegrown players we have like Tommy Thompson. I would like to see a little bit more from him as well. Like on the field working, I would love to see a little bit more from Abakasis as well. Um, but to like stick to trying to answer the question as quick as I can, working from the academy and working from within our own facilities, um, I think could be very beneficial, and especially financially. If they go on to be success, homegrown to go on to somewhere else, could be beneficial. Some gems here in the Bay Area from everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good answer there, Chris, because on the youth side of things, it has seemed to stalled for a bit. And a part of it is also like we're in the business end of the season, or at least we're starting that part of the season. So we can't play the likes of Syed Haji as much as there's plenty of
Yeah,
Haji stands that listen to this podcast, and I am one of them. I
yeah,
think he can be a good player. Jack
me too.
Scan, uh, even Jacob Akanyarije when he gets healthy, Gilbert Fuentes, those types of players, like it's tough to focus on their development when you're chasing the playoffs and the end of the season is upon you. But
Yeah,
that's something that we don't get to see too much about. Like it would be nice if on the Quakes website they could post like a monthly youth, under 23 or something report, like something like maybe a YouTube clip of a few cool things they did in training. Um,
yeah,
that would at
I would
least
agree.
put some minds at ease to know that the club is still thinking about their long-term future along with their immediate future.
Definitely. Yeah. Some might say, thinking long term is more important than the now, but I don't know. The now is also very important, but long term, if you could find the balance between the two, working the academy and working the first team, make sure everyone's getting the most, being the most productive that they can. The most important thing is to get the 3 points and to work for the shirt, work for the city. Um, go Quakes. Go for the Quakes. Work for the Quakes.
Yep. So we got two more fan questions here. This one comes from Discord. Afraid asks, do you think the team did well adapting to not having trophies and Nathan on the field? What are some of the key things they did to secure the tie? And I think They had the right combination of players, even without Nathan, that they were going to cover every blade of grass as much as possible. I think
Yeah,
that was the one benefit of finding a way to put Salinas, Abacasis, and Lopez on the field at all times. I mean,
yeah.
at the same time, sorry,
I
because
would say I would say Marcus Lopez did a great job today covering the space, especially after Nathan's red card.
yeah, I think that especially in those tight areas along the touch lines, that he was very assured about his decision making, and that made it very important. And I think they responded very well to that offside goal that was ruled out. I think maybe they had that realization that the fans did, is like, okay, that was too close for comfort. We gotta minimize the mistakes. And the only other mistake I remember that I was thinking, oh wow, that was awful, was JT Marcinkowski. He tried to do an aerial pass that was easily intercepted by a Minnesota player. But other than that, I thought it was
Yeah,
a very solid performance. I think that went down to their effort and communication.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
And lastly, from Will at Honest GSW Fan 69, great name. When will MLS referees stop being bad? The quick answer to that is probably never.
Never.
Um,
Yeah.
and then he has two other questions. How long do you think it will take for Jeremy to adapt the Matias system? Um, if I think you'll have a good time during this break. Like Almeida will probably go through a few things with him, and then we'll see how much progress he makes on that front. Either in the Colorado Rapids game, I think maybe the Galaxy game might be a little too soon for that, or that stretch of games against Austin, Dallas, and RSL in some order. And then
In some order,
lastly,
yeah.
uh, what are we going to do about Kate Cal? His performances have gone worse. Well, he's too good to not play. I think not starting him is the right move. I think there are reasons that he is a better contributor as a player right now off the bench than he is as a starter. And this might be a weird example
I would agree.
because Andre Iguodala is near the end of his career and Kate Cal is just beginning, but Andre Iguodala being a game changer on the bench gave the Golden State Warriors their first championship title, along with a few other factors like Steph Curry, of course. But I'm not saying Cade Cowell will be the super sub that'll lead San Jose Earthquakes to the MLS Cup, but I don't know too many MLS defenders that when they're tired after playing an hour or so of soccer that they're gonna be like, oh yay, Cade Cowell's coming off the bench. This is gonna be fun.
Exactly, definitely. I would say his pace is definitely what allows him to bring some impact into the game. That's why I believe him being a substitute is good under this system. At least for now, while he gets a little bit more experience, his pace, the way he dribbles at defenders is definitely a good thing, depending on who you are. I mean, if you're the opposition fullback or the opposition center back, maybe not so much, because that could be kind of a nightmare if you've been running for about 80 minutes or 90, the full 90 by then.
Okay, so that's all the fan questions we have for today. Thank you for everyone who submitted questions, particularly in short notice due to the format of our podcasting schedule for this game. And we really appreciate all your support. Continue to listen to our podcast, both the audio version and on YouTube. We're going to close things out with somewhat of a tectonic take, or kind of looking into a crystal ball into the future. So I spoke briefly about the Western Conference. So there's 5 teams that look like, barring any mishaps, they're going to be in the playoffs. So Seattle, Sporting Kansas City, Galaxy, Minnesota, and the Rapids. So that leaves 2 other spots, and the teams fighting for those spots right now are LAFC, Timbers, Quakes, RSL, and FC Dallas. Which 2 of those 5 teams do you think are going to finish in the playoffs coming into the season, Chris?
I would absolutely love it for the Quakes to go all the way, make it into the playoffs. I believe that we can do it. I believe that we can do it. To answer the second part of that question, I believe Timbers are a good team. They have good history
They lost
in the
6-2 though.
MLS.
But granted, it wasn't in Seattle, so that's not so bad. But still, losing 6-2 is kind of bad.
That's not a great scoreline. Not good for my point there. But
I would love for the San Jose Earthquakes to continue what they're doing. Continue not losing at least. Fight for the spots, and toward the end of the season, if we could make it into the playoffs, we all saw what happened at the MLS's back tournament. We love to play with passion and see our team go all the way. I believe the Timbers could also probably fight for that spot.
So LAFC misses out for you. I'm gonna go the opposite. I think the San Jose Earthquakes, I think they're going to fight tooth and nail and scratch and claw their way to that 7th spot. But I think, on second thought, I was about to say LAFC. And maybe that would have been reactionary because, like you said, and like I mentioned earlier, that the Timbers did recently lose to the Center 6-2. But I have more faith in Savarese than I do in Bob Bradley. I think Bob Bradley could be sacked even before the season. And so I think maybe the damage has already been done for LAFC. And I think the Quakes and the Timbers, I'll agree with you there. The potential wild card, I think, out of the other teams, I think could be FC Dallas. I think that they're a bit more battle proven than RSL down this last stretch. They had an impressive playoff win against the Portland Timbers last season. So I think if anyone has another burst of energy to give into this playoff race, we got to keep an eye on FC Dallas, and can't play with the bull or we'll get the horns with them.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And who knows, in that next few months, they might develop one of their other American players and sell them for $5 million.
$5 million is a lot of money, especially in this league.
Yeah, but it's FC Dallas. It's what they do. Them and the Philadelphia Union lately, in particular, and heck, even Sporting Kansas City with Gianluca Busio.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to Quakes, I think it's hard to imagine because it wasn't that long ago, a few episodes even, where I said this club is cursed, draw SC, but I'm actually okay with this draw. And I think you have to be 70 minutes down one player, you'll take the point. And I think hopefully this will be enough good vibes and they'll continue to work hard. And maybe David will beat Goliath on Friday. The Quakes will take down LA Galaxy and really kickstart this season once again. Thanks for your time, Chris. I'm going to let you go home now because I'm sure it's getting a little chilly. Even in the summer.
It's a little windy, but hey, thank you so much for having me on. It was a blast. I would love to come back on someday. Me, Abel, and Ivan. Maybe we'll do a 3-way podcast someday. I thank you to everyone, so much for listening. Keep staying in tune with the Tectonic Takes. Big things to come.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how many people watch this show, and this will be my obscure reference for the podcast, but if you watch MTV's The Challenge, you may be familiar with the Young Bucks Alliance, Corey Nelson and Hunter. I think the Tectonic Takes Young Bucks, Chris and Abel, they're all right. We're glad to have them on this team, and I'm happy to be able to podcast with you tonight. Go Quakes.
Go Quakes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, go Quakes. Right, have a good night. Thank you all for listening.
You too. Thank you all. Have a nice night. Bye.